The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. I consider these two games to be some of my favorite games of all time. And I know I've said this before, but everything about them, from the characters, the music, and the story, are incredible. I'm sure it's really annoying to keep hearing that these games are some of the best games of all time, but they really are extraordinary. So when I heard that Kaze and Majora and a small group of developers were making a Zelda game that would tell the story of what Link did in between Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, I was pretty excited. If you don't know who Kaze is, he is the creator of many amazing ROM hacks such as Super Mario 64 Chaos Edition and Desert Mario 64, and some other games that I really don't want to talk about. So this game is in great hands. Nah, but seriously, Kaze has made some glorious games before, and with The Legend of Zelda: The Missing Link, not only did him and his team make a great game, but it's fucking fantastic. Since this game is set in the same timeline as Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, I was a bit worried that it wasn't going to live up to the high standard that those two games have. But after playing through it multiple times, I can say for certain that it is just as great as those games are, even though it is a fairly short game. The story of The Missing Link takes place right after Ocarina of Time. You return to Kokiri Forest and begin to look for Saria, only to find out that she's disappeared. Not only that, but a mysterious voice tells you that Kokiri Forest is dying, and an evil demon is kidnapping all the fairies in Hyrule. So it's now up to the mighty Pinkus to kill this demon and save Kokiri Forest. What I like a lot about this game is that its personality is a combination of both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. What I mean by that is that it has the same adventurous spirit of Ocarina of Time, where you're on an epic quest to save all of Hyrule's fairies while having the same dark atmosphere of Majora's Mask, where you're traveling through this desolate desert town full of redeads that used to be the town's residents, and talking to spider people that were kidnapped and experimented on. Every area in this game is very distinct from one another. One minute you'll be exploring this gloomy, creepy forest, and the next you're in this bright and cheery farm. No one location looks identical to another, and it really helps this game feel fresh. And the music in this game, holy hell is it so damn good. Every song is incredibly well composed, and they all really capture the mood of each area. My favorite song out of all of them is definitely The Deep Woods. This song is just so beautiful, and it's really peaceful and calming to listen to. It's sort of like an alternate version of The Lost Woods from Ocarina of Time, where that song is very upbeat and lively. The Deep Woods is very relaxed and serene. As a matter of fact, there are some phrases from The Lost Woods that you can hear in The Deep Woods. Here, take a listen. Yeah, this song is the best thing I've ever heard, and if you disagree then you're just a fucking shit stain on my pants. Anyways, I think it's about time to talk about the coolest aspect about this hack. The custom items. Yeah, if you haven't noticed already, this game has a good handful of custom items that you can fuck around with, and just the fact that they're in the game is incredible. The first item you get is the Soul Charge Kokiri Sword, which allows you to shoot some freaking sweet beams of fire. You'll occasionally use it to solve some pretty neat puzzles, but for the most part you're gonna use it to painfully burn enemies alive, which is always really fun. The bunny hood makes a return in this game, which is pretty cool. But if you thought it was fast in Majora's Mask, well, you're in for some shit. Holy fuck, this thing is fast. There's Kojiro the Cuckoo, which you get from winning a race against Epona. What's cool about him is that you can carry him to different locations in the world, though it is annoying that you have to pick him up every time you go through a loading zone. But despite that, he's a neat little cuckold companion you get to travel with for like 10 seconds before you have to throw him into a bottomless pit of fuck in order to progress into the next area. I mean, you don't have to kill him, but even if you don't, then he'll just... Yeah, I'm just gonna leave him there to rot. But the best item by far is the one you get in Hollowroot Keep, the only dungeon in the game. Actually, let me talk about how cool this dungeon is for a quick second. Throughout the dungeon, you'll find these hideous bastards that I mentioned earlier. When you talk to them, they'll tell you about how the demon is using fairies to experiment on people and turning them into these Skulltula people hybrid shit. Then after they give you a key, you can violently attack them cause this game is too much goddamn fun. I love the way this dungeon looks, and there are some really cool puzzles that involve these on-off switches. However, as you explore the dungeon, you'll start to find these weird puzzles that don't seem like they're possible to complete at all. For example, there's this one room where you have to get around this block, but there doesn't seem to be any feasible way to get around or on top of it, which is really odd. That's because you're meant to use a very unique item that is specifically designed for this game. The Magic Hourglass. This is real. This is a real item in the game, and it completely changes the way you approach the puzzles. You see, the Magic Hourglass allows you to travel back in time a couple of seconds, letting you phase through objects and travel back up inaccessible areas. And this isn't just some dumb gimmick that you can only use once. The rest of the game is designed around it. Remember the unsolvable room that I talked about earlier? Well, now that you have the Magic Hourglass, you can just warp behind the block with no problem. That's another thing that I like about the dungeon. The game teases you with these seemingly impossible puzzles, but once you get the Magic Hourglass, you start to think of creative ways to solve them. The only problem that I have with it is that when you use it, this blue spinning aura shit appears on screen and it's really distracting. But other than that small nitpick, it's a really cool item, and it's such a shame that this is probably going to be the only game that the Magic Hourglass will ever be in. This whole dungeon is a really cool part of the game, and once you reach the very end of it, you don't know what to expect the final boss to be. Will it actually be some sort of custom boss, or is that too much to expect from the creators of this hack? Well... This is one hell of a final boss. This disgusting nightmare creature is the demon stealing all the fairies, and dear lord is he a fucking asshole. Even though I think this boss is fun to fight, it's also just as incredibly annoying too. Once you beat his first phase, he starts shooting lasers from his goddamn eyes. They're really hard to dodge, so you're constantly bombarded with a whole bunch of shit. Also, pretty much every part of his body has a hitbox, so if a singular atom of your body just so happens to graze across him, it will hurt you. It's very easy to die to him, especially since you can only get a total of 5 hearts. But despite that, it's so fucking rewarding to land the final blow and kill this motherfucker for good. And after that, the ending starts to play. Pincus chases after Tattle, starting the events for Majora's Mask, and Saria's soul finally gets to rest in peace. There were a lot of things that I really enjoyed about this game. However, as great as this game is, there are like 1 or 2 things that really annoyed me. The first thing is that there are a couple of times when you need to walk back and forth between different areas. It doesn't happen too often and the walk isn't that long, but I still think it would have been cool if you could use warp songs to travel to each area. You do still have your ocarina, and you only really use it to open Saria's front door and to milk cows. It's hardly ever used, so it would have been cool if you could use it to learn a warp song for each main area. That way it could have made good use of the ocarina and to travel each area faster. Also, I don't know where else to mention this, but there's this one cutscene where Pincus sounds just like a hentai girl. I just wanted to point that out for no real reason. And finally, I just wanted to say, this Bomb Chew minigame fucking sucks. And that is all I have to discuss about this game. Overall, I really enjoyed this game, and it's become one of my favorite ROM hacks of all time. And even though there is an issue here and there, its problems are vastly overshadowed by how great everything else is in the game. The dungeons, locations, items, music, and story, pretty much everything in this hack is incredibly well done. It's so well done, in fact, that I like to imagine that this is an official part of the Zelda timeline, that the events of this game really did take place in between Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. And that is what makes this ROM hack so special. The missing link is so impressive that it really does feel like an official Nintendo game. It's able to emulate everything that made the original games memorable while still finding ways to be its own thing. Kaze and his team really worked their ass off to make this game as great as it could be, and their hard work shows. The Missing Link is a fantastic sequel prequel thingy, and if you haven't played it already, then fucking do it, man.